Okay, so we are here with Alexis. Is that what you want to go by?
Yeah, for the most part, Alexis is good.
Okay. How are you doing?
Excited, nervous, excited. That's about it.
First time doing one of these?
First time on this side. I've done interviews before, but I'm usually on your side where I'm doing the interview, not actually getting asked the questions. So this is interesting.
Who did you interview in the past?
Some people in Ottawa. That was a long time ago, though, so I'm not even going to lie to you. I don't remember. Also, in school, I had to do that a lot because I studied sociology, right? So a lot of my school experience was like interviewing people for research questions and stuff like that.
What would you say is the most craziest thing that you had to ask somebody that you were researching, or even that you found out?
Honestly, I've always been somebody who wants to get to like the hardcore questions. So like even in school, when we did a lot of those research projects, they were like, mine were bad. You know, like we're talking racism, we're talking about sexual assault on university. So like I was always asking hard hitting questions. I feel like that was probably some of the most awkward situations though. Asking men like, so how do you feel about like sexual assault at parties? Have you ever seen your friends sexually assault somebody at a party? And having men actually like rat out their friends or like feel uncomfortable, and you know, anytime you have men feeling a little uncomfortable, it's usually a good time. And I think that was definitely one of the weirdest times. Men lie until you get them in like those little boxes by themselves, and then they're here like, oh yeah, yo, I told my friend, no, don't give her that drink. And it's a different scenario, so it's very weird.
Wow. So have you been to one of these parties where that type of situation happened?
Oh yeah. I feel like a lot of women could say they have, right? Where like you see a man trying to pressure a woman into drinking a certain drink, or what time are we going home, or you know what I mean? It's just, if it hasn't happened to you personally, you've seen it happen. And it's very weird, very uncomfortable. Yeah.
How long were you out in Ottawa?
5 years. 5 years, from 18 to 23.
So your adult years.
Yeah. My real formative years. I know people say that about like teenage years, but I don't think teenage years really show you that much. You know, especially being like 17, 16, thinking about what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I had no idea what I was going to do. It wasn't until I was like actually in Ottawa that I remembered, or like I realized the person I wanted to be, what my goals were going to be more like, who I wanted to like hang around more so. High school, yeah, not formative at all.
Okay, with that being said then, who is Alexis?
Who is Alexis? Multifaceted Black woman. That is the biggest thing. Dancer, model, actress, eclectic personality, older sister, lover. Honestly, just a human amongst the world. I think that's like, I remember I was telling you earlier, I think about this question a lot. And sometimes I get very much into like the roles, what I've done, who I am. I'm just a human, just here vibing, trying to do something different than I've seen a lot of people around me do, trying to be something bigger than I've seen a lot of people around me be. That's about it.
Do you think you are satisfied with who you are?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think I'm happy with how far I've come, for sure. I think finishing university, you know, getting to the point where like I'm an actress now and having some of those accolades under my belt feel good. But there's so much more to be done, just even in the sense of like my mental health, my physical health, where I want to be in life. No, I don't know if I ever will be. Yeah, because it's an ongoing process of like figuring out what's making me happy now and like what else I can do or what else is out there, you know?
What's the difference between a young Alexis and an adult Alexis? What do you think is the main three differences from a teen Alexis to an adult Alexis?
Ooh, hard-hitting questions. Honestly, first thing first is I think adult Alexis is a lot more confident. I think in high school, people thought I was teenage Alexis. People have always thought I was like outlandish, kind of more of an out there person. But I wasn't. I very much didn't try out for any teams. I didn't really do any of the tryout things or put myself out there unless I knew I was going to get like a sure yes, you know? So I think I'm more confident. I think I'm out of the box more now. Definitely have my head more on my shoulders. I know more about who I am. What else is different? I think teenage Alexis was a little bit more timid. I definitely am a little bit more impulsive now, which is good because like before I didn't try a lot of things at all. You know, I'm kind of risque now, and I like that. I'm not really scared to say yes to a lot of things. Before I said no to everything. And I think I'm more grounded in the person that I am. I'm more okay with like not knowing everything about myself, but also the things I do know, being like smart, being kind of creative. Before I didn't really know what made me, and that caused me a lot of grief and a lot of confusion and a lot of like inner turmoil. But now I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of smart. I'm cute. I'm creative. I'm dynamic. And the things I don't know, like I'm okay with like learning along the way, you know? So yeah.
If there's one thing adult Alexis can go back and tell teen Alexis, what would that one thing be?
I think it would be a constant reassurance of like, you're okay. I think I would definitely tell her that no matter what point she is at in her life, like, you're okay, you're going to figure it out. Because I think as a teenager, which I think a lot of Black teenagers, honestly, in Toronto feel, like, there was so much pressure on me to, like, go to university and figure out what my plan's going to be and make my mom proud and where do I fall into, like, with my friend groups and stuff. And I feel like as an adult now, especially being done all that school stuff and everything, like, I would just tell her, like, you're okay. You're making the right decisions. Your path is, you know, you're following your path. It'll be okay. Just take time, relax, breathe, and hug yourself. Because, yeah, you need to love on yourself a little bit more, too, teenage Lex. You gave too much love to everybody else, not yourself.
Where did you come from?
Where do I come from? Such a deep question. My mom and dad are from the Caribbean. So, you know, small island on one side, St. Vincent on that side, Jamaica on the other side. And I think that's very important to start off with because, like, that is the main integral being of me. I feel like I'm very, like, boisterous and very much bashment like my Jamaican mom, but also, like, very dynamic and rebellious, like the Vincentian side of me. I grew up in Scarborough, so that's also my stomping grounds and very important to the person I am. When I say Big Lex from the ends is Scarborough, not North York or anywhere else you guys have seen me. Thank you. And I give Scarborough a lot of, like, yeah, a lot of love and a lot of thank yous for making me the person I am. I think the person that Alexis became really was developed in the Scarborough streets, figuring out, like, what kind of people I want to hang around, where do I want to go, what's my life going to be like, and yeah, so I guess that's where I'm from. The ends.
Which culture did you gravitate to more? Your mother's culture or your father's culture?
This is an interesting question because I think when people first meet me, they'll definitely think I'm Jamaican first. I speak patois more. I'm loud and bashment like my mom. Especially if you've met my mom, you always think that, like, I grew up more Jamaican and, like, I lean towards that side more. I think it's also easy because I grew up with my mom for me to talk about Jamaica more and feel that. But there's just something about being Vincy and that unruliness, the soca music, the positivity that I think is integral also to the person I am. And I don't think I could choose. I don't know. Even the way I grew up eating food, I think I grew up more Jamaican. Like, I definitely think I grew up more eating rice and oxtail and rice and peas and not really doing the Vincy thing and eating, like, palau and stuff. But I've made it a thing. to do both. I think I've made it a thing. So that's where we'll leave it at. Yeah, I did a good job of being both. My mom and my dad, I don't know. If it was up to them, I probably would have just been Canadian, to be honest.
You know, Palau is great, right?
Listen, Palau is amazing, okay? Palau is amazing. I love Palau. But the problem is, growing up, my mom did most of the cooking. And my dad was, like, kind of trying to appease to my mom. So, like, he'd make bakes every now and then. But, like, it was really oxtail, curry goat, rice and peas, salt fish and ackee. You know what I mean? Like, real Jamaican stuff. Like, yeah. Even now that I live with my grandma, I'm getting more into eating the Vincy stuff and eating the plantains and the palau and everything. Mm-hmm. But growing up, it was definitely more Jamaican. Definitely, yeah.
Thinking about your childhood with your parents,
Mm-hmm.
who do you think wore the pants in the relationship, and does that reflect on who you are today?
Vegas, are you trying to get me in trouble? Like, honestly, my mom. Like, I'm trying to make it seem like I have to think about it, but it's my mom. My mom definitely was more of the powerhouse. She definitely, what she said goes. Like, if my mom says something, whether it's go wash the dishes, go take out the garbage, go to bed, it goes. My dad was a lot more soft-spoken, so I think that also made it easy for my mom to take control. And he very much believed that, like, we're kids and kids should just be kids, you know? Like, when my mom was cussing about, like, us coming home with grass stains or, like, being dirty and stuff, he was like, they're kids. The only thing he ever really cared about was education, and he was very strong on that. So I think that, yeah, my mom definitely did more of the powerhouse and being the bad parent thing. And I do think that has some type of effect on the way I grew up, because in a sense, I grew up in that whole trope of, like, the strong black woman thing and having that strong black single mom, because my parents also separated really young. And on one hand, it's very easy for me to see her and be like, oh my God, my mom was always so aggressive and so angry and da-da-da-da-da. Why was she like that? But she had to be. Like, she had to deal with having 2 jobs by herself, taking care of 3 kids, you know. Also had me at 18. So, like, she very much did not know what she was doing. And I feel like she was doing the best that she could at the time and trying to keep us in and making sure, like, we didn't have kids at the same age she did and, like, weren't running road the way she was, like, the only thing she cared about. So, like, now looking back, I can give her a little bit more grace and understand where the aggression came from. But I've always respected, like, the independence she had and the strongness she had and the stability she had for herself. So definitely made me the woman I am. I don't even think, like, me being so confident and firm in who I am would be the same if it wasn't for my mom, for sure.
Looking back at the situation where I don't know if who left who, you're young. Mm-hmm. Being such a strong person, do you think that may have led to the demise with your mother being so, because I assume she would have to be strong then and continue the strength. Mm-hmm. Do you think that was maybe one of the reasons why?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially because I was, like, the firstborn, I got to see a lot of the things from, like, a different light, you know, like, where my sister was a little bit younger and still kind of like a baby. I was my mom's best friend, for one, and also the one that was kind of sitting there through it all, trying to help my sister with her homework and kind of trying to do the extra help for her. And I think that, like, knowing that she couldn't never really cry around us about it or, like, be weak about it because she had to just keep going definitely added to that, like, aggression and to that frustration, where it's like that good parent, bad parent thing, right? My mom always had to be the bad parent. If we went to my dad's house for the weekend, it was just for the weekend, and he can buy us, like, little things and make us happy for the weekend. And then she came home and had to make sure we were doing homework and had to make sure we were going to bed at the right time and had to make sure the bills were all paid and stuff. So, like, I definitely think that adds to, like, the anger, and definitely adds to, like, the trope of all women being, like, strong black women, so angry black women, da-da-da-da-da. It's a lot to, like, do by yourself. especially even when you thought you might have a partner that you were going to do this with, like we're splitting this half and half and he's going to help me out and everything's going to be like this cute little love story, and it doesn't go that way. Really, yeah, changes your perspective, I imagine.
With your mom being such a strong Black woman, do you think that led to the demise of her relationship?
Honestly, that's an interesting question. To be really real, I feel like Black parents very much try to do that whole stay out of grown folks' business thing too much. And that creates some very much miscommunication in what the story is, I remember very much so that it was my dad has always been somebody who, like I said, was a little bit more like soft-spoken, didn't really care about things as much. And I remember very much it being about him, stepping out on my mom a few times and doing his own thing. But as you get older, that story kind of changes a few times. And my mom now is very much, oh, no, that's never happened, even though she was the one that told me that. I think ultimately, though, that is like one of the biggest things that caused the demise of their relationship. Just the fact that my dad was so lackadaisical and not ready to grow up, and my mom very much was. And we see that a lot happen in the society, right? Like the mom steps up and is very much like, okay, well, we have to be serious now. And, like my mom stopped smoking, got a job, became very much like, I'm no longer a teenager, because she had me at 18, right? My dad was probably 23, got a job as well, but it wasn't, I find that like everything at the time, even looking back, didn't happen unless my mom was pushing him, So like him getting a cell phone was my mom pushing him getting a car was my mom pushing him, and like them doing all that stuff together. And I think that with the stepping out of the house and him not really getting his shit together and my mom just being like, how long are we going to do this for? It just dissipated, like that young love, that potential love kind of grew, and they grew up and she was growing ahead of him, honestly. I think that would be it, really. It wasn't really just the sense of her being a strong Black woman, but I think that is what cushioned her into making the decision that she made. Yeah, the fact that she knew she could do it without him, the fact that she knew that she wanted more, and like he was starting to kind of slow her down and hold her back rather than helping her, definitely made her be like, all right, you gotta skedaddle, my guy. Figure this out by yourself.
How did that relationship translate to your future relationships?
Ooh. Honestly, Vegas, I think I take after my mom a lot, in the sense that I'm always thinking about the next move and like what's going to happen next, and not trying to stay stagnant, not trying to get comfortable. And I very much find that anytime I feel like that element in my dad of like lackadaisical or like stagnation or something in a man, I'm very much like, all right, this is getting stale, or like something needs to happen here, which I think when I was younger was like very much, I couldn't figure out what it was, honestly. Like I used to say even things like, I have a 4-month rule, and after 4 months, men usually start to bore me. And I think it was genuinely just the fact that like I was never comfortable being comfortable. And my mom very much made it clear that like you should never be comfortable with somebody who is comfortable within themselves and their situation. So like within my own situation now, I'm starting to look for people who are like always trying to do the most. And okay, so what's next after this? And yeah, I think that's definitely something I'm still working on, where I'm like not trying to compare my partners to my dad and stuff. But it's definitely a subconscious thing. Definitely there.
What are your goals in life?
Ultimately, well, these are always changing. My goals and the way I see them is always changing. But I think ultimately my number one goal is to be happy and to be happy, to be, I think I realize at this point I can't do everything by myself, and I can't push my whole family forward, but just to make those little incremental steps and keep making incremental steps, whether that be when it comes to family trauma and how we take on family trauma and don't talk about it in our family, whether it's going to therapy, whether it's getting a house, you know, just like making little progression within my family dynamic and within the family aspect, finding happiness in myself and within society, whether that's, I don't know what that looks like yet, honestly. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why it's my number one goal. I think right now I'm happy doing the acting thing. I'm happy following my own dreams. I'm happy finally living life on my accord, you know, being out of university and like finally getting to do things for myself. And I think as I grow, that's the goal, just to keep finding things that make me happy, things that I want to bring into my life, and things that just make me feel good. Because I feel like in society, especially here, it's so hard to find things that like genuinely make you feel good, not just numb the pain or like numb or make you feel like you should feel good for today and just like tomorrow when you're back at work, you know, you're back to that shitty cycle. I want to actually feel happiness and like, no, I'm working on that every day.
Was that always the goal?
No. I think, especially when I was younger, the goal was the typical first generation goal. You know, go to school, get a good job, have a nice family, get a house, make my parents proud. And that was it, really. I don't think I thought much further than like becoming a therapist and getting the good job and having that happiness. It wasn't until I was in university that I was like, but I don't think this is actually going to make me happy. And the things that I put with happiness, the things that I think that people constantly say make them happy, like having money, having the good house, really stems from other things like stability, you know, safety, creativity. So instead of looking for the material things or the goals to make me happy, I started to think about what those actual things meant to me and how I could attain those things. So instead of like getting the house and the happy family now, I just want to be stable and know that like I'm safe and I'm happy and working on my goals, not trying to find accolades to make me happy or things like that.
When do you plan to accomplish your goals? Like, when do you feel like you're going to feel accomplished and satisfied? Is there like a time frame? Is there like a due date?
I think that's one of the things that's definitely changed a lot about the way I make goal setting, because I feel like, especially when you're younger, because here we're so ingrained in like how we're going to hit certain goals. What time are you going to get a house? What time are you going to go to school by? What time are you going to do this by? It's so easy to be like, okay, in the next 3 years, I want to be done this. In the next 3 years, I want to be done that. I want to be done this. And also feeling shit when you don't hit those things. Like going to university for myself, I was supposed to be doing a 4-year program. It ended up being 5 years. And I think around that time was when I started to let go of those goal deadlines. Because I realized, like, even if I hit my goal and I don't do it within the time that I said I'm going to do it, it might make me still feel like shit, you know? Like, when I think about university sometimes, yeah, I accomplished that. But I still think about the fact that, like, some people finished earlier than me. And subconsciously, I'm still like, but you could have done it quicker. So I've tried to, like, rid that from my psyche and now kind of just focus on two main things, which is, am I working on my goals today? And if I died today, where would I say I was? And I think that, like, with those two things, it's like I'm constantly always working on my goals. So that makes me happy. And I don't think it's ever going to be something where I feel like I'm at a point where I'm like sitting in the big house or I have the family now and I'm like, yes, we're happy. But I think that, like, knowing that I'm constantly trying to achieve those things and looking for that happiness is like a part of it. And I think that I don't think that, like, with that second part, I don't think it's really about what the time will be or any of that stuff. It's just making sure I'm not getting stagnant. And, like, if I died tomorrow or today, I would die comfortable knowing, like, I was going for my goals. I was going for happiness. And I've achieved some of that, you know? I act for myself. I finished my degree. I know what it is I like to do. I'm very confident in the person I am now. And that gives me a level of happiness that I didn't even have 2 years ago. You know, so that's kind of now how I measure my happiness, like, and my goals. How far have we come from the last year or so? Not necessarily what's it going to look like in the next 5 years, or like, are we going to achieve this by 10 years from down the line? I don't know. As long as we're still working, though, that makes me happy.
Why do you think you are the way you are?
I think the easiest answer is trauma. Honestly. Like, I think, and it's kind of funny, but it's not really funny, because I think that so much of us don't realize that we are our experiences, whether good and bad. And ultimately, at this point, I think the way that I've incorporated my life experiences, the trauma of being like the first generation, growing up in the hood, being a black woman, and stepping out of that has made me the person I am. Like, knowing that the things I've been through are not all of me, knowing that I'm bigger than just the first kid of a single mother who grew up in the hood, knowing that I'm bigger than just being a black woman, knowing that like there's so much more to me has made me the person I am. Also thinking about like the fact that a lot of my peers are still very scared of coming out of the boxes that we've been in and out of the things that we've been in. Because it's one thing to go through certain situations, but to like actually overcome those situations and do something different. You know, like when it comes to like, I don't know, getting fired from a job, for example, and like looking for that next job or looking for something new. A lot of people are scared to do something new. And I think that incorporating that fear in myself and being like, from being scared, I'm probably going to get this, that, and the third, has made me the person I am. Like, just knowing that, yeah, I am my experiences, but not only my experiences. And I am okay to say yes. And fear is okay, has made me the person I am, for sure. Also, I think that like trauma definitely made me so funny. So like, that's another thing too. When you can laugh at everything, like, nothing really matters, you know?
Without putting anybody's names or anything out there, tell us like one bit of trauma that affected you, without going into like deep details like that.
Well, I'll talk about a recent example, and not too recent, because some of y'all know me on Instagram and stuff, and I can't have that. You know, I can't. Too recent, too close to home. But a few years ago, I think one of my biggest turning points, and how I say trauma really can change the way that we are, like help us find more about ourselves, is I just came out of university, you know, finished the sociology, psychology thing, had my head on my shoulders, stars in my eyes, you know, was going to be like this pro-black community organization on my Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, come back to the city and save the world thing. And it started to seem like that was going to happen. I started to work for this community organization, really big organization that seemed like they were doing a lot of good work, you know. I was doing the thing, working with CP24, working with politicians, getting the word out there about some of the things that we were doing, spreading the words about like some of the struggles that were going on in a lot of the low-income buildings that like some of us grew up in. And there came a point where one of the people I was working with started to sexually harass me and kind of take it a step further, where it's like they were calling my phone all the time. They were sending me emails. Other people that were in the organization started to like kind of key into what was going on and also start to press me about the situation, and would be like, oh, it's just an old man. Like, you shouldn't be that scared about what's going on, or, oh, you shouldn't like take it that seriously. And this is also in the midst of like BLM times, you know, like Alua Toyin just died. Rest in peace to her. Trayvon Martin had died a few years ago. So like everybody also is really on edge, especially young pro-black Lex who just came from university and is thinking about these things, you know? And I brought that to my employers, and they just like did not see any of my concerns. Like, they didn't realize how it felt as a black woman going into these neighborhoods, trying to like do the work and not have anybody protecting you there. Again, already as a black woman, you don't really have a lot of safety. You don't have a lot of protection, you know? So like not having that level of protection was scary. Knowing that they didn't really see the regard because I'm a black woman and it was like a white older man and they were like, he's harmless, made it like also very shocking. And I think it was like the first time that I really realized that like in any realm and in any industry that people could be grimy, you know, and that you can't expect people to look out for you. Like I was doing community work where ultimately one of the things we always said was that we're here to protect and serve black women because those were the ones that were making up the organization. Those are the ones that are in the streets fighting, protesting for everything, you know? When you see a protest happening, it's usually black women and LGBTQ people at the front and then everybody else at the back. And those people, and I wasn't protected at the time, and those people didn't see it as a scenario. And also to add, this guy was also a pedophile, and I was working with like young black kids, bringing him around these young black kids, and like none of this was like stuff that they thought like, you know, was a big issue until I made it a big issue. And I feel like coming out of university, expecting this to be my dream job, having a career and stuff in protecting people and community organization, it really made me do a 180 for a second there and really messed up what I thought my career path would be, you know, because I was here thinking that like in community, we're all here to protect each other and it's very kumbaya and we're thinking of love and safety and those things first. And I realized that even in community organizing, that there is still a level of capitalism. As a black woman, I'm always a black woman first. Like people will see a white man as harmless and see me as somebody who can take care of myself before actually looking at what those, you know, what that dynamic really is. And realistically, I'm a small woman. I'm 5'6". I'm 5'6", 115. You know, I'm not super big, but like the fact that I am a black woman makes them think like it was harmless. And honestly, even saying things to them like, this is somebody who knows where our organization is on the Danforth and everything. Like, he can come when I'm locking up the shop at nighttime and like, I don't know, kidnap me. None of those things were like ever regarded as like harmful. And I think it really made me realize that like, one, even in community organizations, people don't really care about you. It made me realize that like I was seeing things too glittery coming out of university and seeing how much I could fix things and not really seeing the realistic side of things in which like there's still racism. There's still so many different dynamics, even within trying to help people out. And yeah, that was like a real hard thing for me to sit in. I had to sit in the fact that like everything I kind of thought up until that point about like what I wanted to do was completely going out the window. I had to think about like the fact that I was fighting myself now to do something that I thought was bigger than me, but I also was not in a good place where like mentally I didn't want to go to work. Mentally, I knew that that guy might be calling me today or my manager is going to tell me to email him or something. But because I'm protecting black people in the neighborhoods I grew up in, my job still seemed more worth it than like my actual livelihood, than my actual mental health. And it took me like a few months and going into therapy to really like channel that back and start to look at myself and be like, whoa, Alexis, like martyrism and martyrdom is not the way. And we see that with like times with like Martin Luther King and stuff where like people will put themselves out there and like put themselves literally on the front lines to get nothing back. And I realized at that time that like just was not the place for me. It was maybe something I could do in the long run when I have more resources, when I have more money and I can now protect other people. But in a sense where I'm starting out on the grounds and I need to be protected, that was not the situation for me. And I think going into pandemic time, it made me think about all the other things I like to do. And that's kind of how I ended up acting, honestly. So it's like from the trauma and that experience came other beautiful things, you know? Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that, man. That is wild, yo. That is wild. And the fact that they're protecting that man was on a different level of disrespect still.
Oh yeah, like down to hearing things like, are we trying to stigmatize people with mental illnesses? Like, just because he's a pedophile and has schizophrenia, does that mean he has a bad person? My sister has these mental illnesses. And I was like, are we talking about your sister here? Or are we talking about a white, pedophilic man and me? And like, those are honestly were the things I start to realize too. Like, they can look at that white man and see like their white sister or like their family members before they look at me and see their sister. And like think about like, man, what if this was happening to my sister? Mm-hmm. Instead, they're like, my sister's mentally ill, and I wouldn't say she's crazy. And I'm like, yes, but your sister also is not a pedophile and trying to touch people. This is, these are different scenarios, guys. Different scenarios.
Alexis, actor, sociologist,
yeah.
Psychologist. What is it? Psychologist.
Yeah, psychologist. You have to have, more degrees, though. More papers under the belt to get those titles.
You don't have your degree, you just...
I'm bachelor's.
Still something.
Yeah, in order to be a psychologist, though, you have to be doctorate. That's like an extra 12 years. Mm-hmm. I didn't have that time.
How do you set yourself apart from your peers?
How do I set myself apart from my peers? I think, wow. I don't really think I think of it that way, honestly. I think that in society, it's very easy, especially being a sociologist, it's very easy for me to compare and contrast myself to everybody and like look at people who are 26 and what are they doing, and look at people from my hood and be like, what are they doing, and everybody around me. But I think that the way that I set myself aside and differently from my peers, or set myself apart from my peers, is really just being different than my peers. Like I feel like in 2022, in this generation, whatever people want to say, it's so easy for us to all do the same thing because it's on Instagram, because it's on social media. We could all buy the same bags. We can all do the same jobs. We can all talk the same way. Like genuinely, you could hear somebody from one side of Canada trying to use the yo doggy da 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 da, and they've never stepped foot in Toronto, but they'll use it just because like they know that's how we talk now. And I think that like the number one thing that has set me apart is like acknowledging the similarities. Like, yes, bro, we're both from the hood. We are both from Toronto. But like this little part might make me a little different. Like, being Vincy and Jamaican, and like just the little differences I have made me like, and like honing those differences is really, I think, what makes me different. Like not being scared to talk out, not being scared to be more than just a pretty face. Because even that's easy to do on social media, like you see and shout outs to them. You see the Harapatras, you see the I Am Dochis, you see like all of the pretty women on Instagram, and like you're like, okay, so to emulate, like, do I just... And it's like, Harapatra speaks. She's actually funny. What's her name? Willow, I don't even remember the other girl's name, but these are funny people, and like they have other things that make them them. So I think just like honing the things that make me me, while also acknowledging what makes me similar, is like honestly what sets me apart. Knowing that I'm a black woman like everybody else, but like I'm saucy, I'm just different, man. Like I'm just different. I don't know. There's just a different je ne sais quoi in Alexis. That's just it.
That's what's up, man. Any last words you want to tell the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, I guess thanks for listening to me. Be kind, be loving, and mind your business, because y'all don't be doing that enough. That's it.